Hey everybody, a wonderful happy Monday to all of you. Bob DiGiacomo, Intentional Growth Coaching, coming to you from beautiful and sunny Bermuda. It's a bit overcast today. We're hoping it's going to actually rain, but it's always beautiful and sunny. And you know, with everything that's going on, I've put some information together. I don't know how you're feeling. I'm totally in awe as to what's going on out there in the world. We've got a pandemic around the world. We've got planes that are not flying. We've got countries and states that are shut down and trying to reopen, and economies that are trying to get back on their feet. All things you know. So I wrote this thing that was the year that was. When we cross over into the bright lights, are we not reflected and refracted into all the colors of the rainbow? Now, I'm just touching on this very quickly because I still am going to be broadcasting a special lesson on colors that goes hand in hand with my lesson on bridges and tunnels, the walls, and of course then colors. So I won't go into much detail on that, but interestingly enough, we tend to think and see things in black and white. And yet there are colors all around us. But there are so many things going on today, and in our today, one wonders just what the heck is going on. But I must tell you that things like this, while they seem unique because they are occurring in our today, which is really your today, because you were not around back in the day when it was my today, and so unique is unique. But let me elaborate on a few pros and cons that happened back in my today. And for my today, I chose 1968. 1968 was such a crazy year, reflecting both darkness and light. The year 1968 reminds one of the most tumultuous single years in the history of the United States, marked by historic achievements, shocking assassinations, a much-hated war, and a spirit of rebellion that swept through the countries all over the world. Oh, you're thinking that I'm talking about today. No. I said 1968. And all of this occurred at the dawn of the television age. So the historic events of 1968 played out on the TV screens across the country, bringing them home in such a way that it had never been possible before. And yet, in 1968, with all the bad things that were going on, there were so many good achievements to more than balance things out. So let me start with the negative ones first. Of course, Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated that year. Presidential candidate Robert Kennedy was shot and killed. There were serious demonstrations and mass student protests over the Vietnam War. The Tet Offensive happened in Vietnam, and while it's looked upon as being a negative, the United States actually won the Tet Offensive but lost because of all the ramifications. Did I mention live on TV? There was a flu pandemic that started in Hong Kong. Western governments concerned over the influx of Japanese cars. They were concerned that there were so many Japanese cars coming into their countries and the impact that it would have on those countries' economies and the jobs that would be lost. There were strikes throughout the country of France. The DNC, or Democratic National Convention, took place in Chicago that year, and it was marred by violence and rioting, and all seen live on TV. The RNC, or Republican National Convention, was much more serene, and Richard M. Nixon was chosen as the candidate, and Nixon goes on to win that year over the Democrat candidate Hubert Humphrey and the white supremacist George C. Wallace. Now, I'm emphasizing the words white supremacist. No. Back in 1968, not today. China celebrated 20 years as a communist country under Mao Zedong. North Korea, brazen North Korea, decided to seize a U.S. Navy ship, the Pueblo, and held their crew for a crew of 83 members in a POW, prisoner of war camp. The famous Black Power fist raise during the playing of the Star-Spangled Banner at the Summer Olympics during the medal ceremony. Now, for some good things. The Civil Rights Act of 1968 was passed. Dr. Christian Barnard conducted the first successful heart transplant. The Big Mac, 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun went on sale for the first time for 49 cents. 60 Minutes would air for the first time. There were classic films that year, which, and there were many, I just will mention a few, but one was Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? The Graduate. Hello, Mrs. Robinson. And of course, The Planet of the Apes. And so many musical groups out there. Again, just to name a few, the Rolling Stones, Fleetwood Mac, Aretha Franklin, Pink Floyd. The Boeing 747 made its first maiden flight. 911 emergency phone service began that year. Interestingly enough, the first ATM went into service back in 1968. Now hold on, here it comes. Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura performed the first interracial kiss on Star Trek. And his classic line, "Where I come from, size, shape, or color makes no difference." The NASA Apollo 8, the first manned mission to actually leave the Earth's orbit and orbit the moon, live on TV. And it has actually been said that Apollo 8 saved 1968. And that's basically based on, with all the bad stuff that was going on in 1968, to have a mission like that people were watching live on TV. Now, there was a famous reading that took place by astronaut Jim Lovell from space on Christmas Eve while the Apollo 8 was up there. And I am going to read it because it's important and paramount to what I'm speaking to today. "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light. And God saw the light, and that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness." And Lovell continued, "And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, 'Let there be firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters.' And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day." And astronaut Neil Bohrman would finish, "And God said, 'Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear.' And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called the seas. And God saw that was good." And from there, the crew of Apollo 8 would close with "Good night, good luck, a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you on the good earth." On the good earth. See, with rapt attention hard to imagine today, millions of people sat in front of their TVs or listened to the radios, and for those few moments on Christmas Eve, more than half a century ago, their words seemed to calm, at least briefly, a very restive earth. And I'm going to put up a couple of pictures here for you to look at. And if we look at the picture of our beautiful earth as seen from the moon, we must continue to realize that our planet should be seen for what it is. We are not just continents and oceans, but a strong but vulnerable people who must strive each day to save us from ourselves. And just as we remember those astronauts who risked their lives to get to the moon, we remember the explorers, even earlier, who risked their lives during that age of exploration. You see, I put up these pictures here for a reason. I'm looking from the moon to the earth, and I'm looking at a rough surface to something which is not quite so rough, but yet in its own self very rough. Because each and every day we have a rough day while we have a smooth day. And then I have the picture of the earth looking to the moon with two people standing there hand in hand, because there is always hope. Helping other people achieve, excel, enjoy. There is hope for mankind. What's going on out there? This too shall pass. And years from now, when the newer generations are living in their today and you're looking back at your today, which is their yesterday, you'll begin to understand why I broadcast what I broadcast about 1968. Because the promise of what lies ahead in our tomorrow is greater than we think. We need to live and lead our lives in the future. The future that is trying to evolve and emerge while we are going through our present. And that will indeed be the gift. So those are my words for today. I hope it's made a great deal of sense to y'all. And I'll just close with this.